Go.
Hey everybody, welcome back again. Guess what time it is? Time to pop open another delicious bottle from the WTSO Bottle Shop. Today we are going back to France. Specifically, we're going to the Rhone Valley, which is in the southeastern corner of France and close to the Mediterranean, so a little warmer down there, and you get these really juicy, bold red wines. Today we are opening up an Hermitage, which is one of the best examples of a Northern Rhone Syrah-based wine. We've done quite a few videos about the Rhone River Valley. Most of you know that it's subdivided into two sections. There's the Northern Rhone and there's the Southern Rhone. And the Southern Rhone is known for blended wines, famous wines like Châteauneuf-du-Pape. The Northern Rhone is interesting because something like 90% of all the wines in the Northern Rhone are red and they're made from the Syrah grape.
So even though they're not really that far apart, the one only concentrates on one grape. Is there a reason why? Is that the only grape that really grows there well?
The Northern Rhone is much warmer, which is counterintuitive because you would think as you get closer to the Mediterranean it gets warmer, but the Northern Rhone is actually more isolated. It's what they call a continental climate, so you get extreme weather, and the Syrah grape really thrives in warm weather. So let's talk about Hermitage real quick. The name and the brief history. We know that French wine regions are all subdivided and they're nested inside of each other. So Hermitage is nested inside the Northern Rhone. The name comes from the Middle Ages when this area was controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. A crusader named Gaspard de Sterenburg, pretty cool name,
I like that.
came back from the Crusades and he was wounded, and he asked the Queen of France if he could have a place to rest. So she granted him this land on the top of the hill, and he lived the rest of his life out there. There's a little chapel on top of the hill to this day that's dedicated to St. Christopher, and the hill that these grapes are grown on is called the Hermitage. And the thing that makes this piece of land so sought after and such desirable wines is that it's facing southwest on the hill, so the aspect is almost perfect for growing grapes. And lastly, I will say that Hermitage is the most sought after Syrah-based wine in the world, probably. These bottles can live for 20, 30 years in your cellar, and at auction they command thousands of dollars a bottle for like the best examples. So this is a really fantastic wine. And now is the time when we drink.
My favorite time.
So this is made by a co-op. Co-ops exist in almost every European country as far as winemaking is concerned. Because you have so many small growers who don't have their own facilities and don't have their own equipment, it makes sense for all of them to take their grapes to a bigger facility where they can share the equipment together. This co-op is really famous. It's called Cave de Tain. And Tain is the city that is right directly below the hill of Hermitage.
Yeah, well, I mean, co-op, that's just an agricultural thing. You're going to find that in farming communities all over the world. So
I think here in the United States, for some reason, a co-op has a negative connotation, and I'm not really sure why. Over in Europe, it's a way of life. To make sure the cameraman is well lubricated.
that's right.
There's definitely a peppery note to this, and Syrah is famous for getting pretty funky as it gets older too. So this one, not quite as old as some get. This is only a 2020, so it's only got 4 years on it. But if you have an example that's like 10 years old or so, it really gets that funky, like animal kind of smell, that barnyard kind of thing.
Yeah, like leathery sort of.
Yeah, it's still quite young. It's a little tannic. I mean, you can probably tell by looking at the color. It's just a deep, intense wine. In the wine world, we kind of distinguish between red and black fruit. There's no cherries or anything in here like this. This is all like blackberry and blueberry in there. Black fruit.
Right.
After swallowing the wine and kind of sitting here with it for a while, the finish is starting to show me, you're getting like a menthol or like a mint.
Yeah, at the very back, very end, a little licorice, right?
Licorice too, yeah. So this is a young one. It's drinking very nicely right now, but could easily go for another 10 to 15 years. I would even say 20.
Really?
Yeah, if you have the patience for that.
Yeah, I don't, but
yeah, this is the kind of wine that you could buy a case of and put, 6 of them aside, put them in your cellar and age them for years, and then serve the rest of it to your guests and have a good time. All right, now it's time to talk about some Hermitage or Syrah food pairings. I would say that this is a pretty muscular wine, to use a term. It's got a lot of power. There's a rustic charm to it, but at the same time, there's a refined aspect. Obviously, this would be red meats all the way, especially game meats too. I think that would be kind of the way to go with something like this because it's got a little bit of that funk on it. Lamb shank or like grilled lamb. This is probably the wine you would want to pair with like exotic meats. Ostrich, all the weird stuff. I've even had camel one time too. Have you ever had camel meat before?
Never had camel, but I have had ostrich.
And if you are not a meat eater, Something that kind of has the same body and the same kind of like power is French onion soup.
Oh yeah.
I can see this going with French onion soup pretty well, especially that peppery note in there. And that is a fantastic Hermitage, still available through WTSO at the bottle shop. So you can go online and pick and choose from the bottle shop, mix and match all these wines that we did in previous tastings, and even hire me for a private tasting, which would be pretty amazing. Thanks so much for drinking Hermitage with me, guys. What a wonderful wine. I hope you get the chance to taste this, and maybe even join me for one too. All right, I'll see you soon for the next bottle and the next glass of wine. Cheers.